medical stuff. His father had been acting strange since Declan had returned to the UK 11 months ago. This wasn't the first time he'd suggested that the business wasn't everything. Since when? His dad had even been trying his hand at matchmaking, pushing everything from corporate lawyers to exotic dancers under Declan's nose. It was surreal, and it was driving him crazy. "How bad is it?" he asked the doctor as the bandage came off. "Not bad, considering. The bullet went right through. I'm going to give you some stitches. Otherwise, you have a bang on the head, and we'll keep you in overnight in case there's any concussion." "I have a—" "He'll stay," his dad interrupted, "if I have to tie him to the goddamn bed." His father really was upset, which was weird. Rory McCabe did not do upset. "I've arranged for Pete to stay here tonight," he said, a frown turning down the corners of his mouth. "He'll stand guard outside your room. Then tomorrow, we'll get you some bodyguards." "You're joking, aren't you?" "Do I look like I'm fucking joking?" Declan glanced away from the doctor stitching the wound to where his father leaned against the wall, arms folded across his chest. No, he didn't. He looked deadly serious. "I don't need a minder, Dad." "You're sitting in ER having a bullet wound stitched up. I say that pretty much means you do." He did have a point, but somehow Declan couldn't get worked up about it. "I knew the risks when I went to the police. And I warned you against it. Why? Were they old mates of yours?" For a moment his father's expression tightened, and then he grinned. "More likely old enemies. Let's just say that I know the type." Yeah, his old dad would know the type. McCabe Industries was now totally legitimate, but it hadn't always been that way. His father's wealth had been built on illegal gambling, smuggling, and prostitution. That was all behind him now, but Declan was betting he still had a few dodgy contacts. "And they will want to make an example of you," his dad continued. "I'm doing what I can, calling in some old debts, but until I clear this up, I want to make sure you're safe." "And you intend to do that by getting me some goddamned babysitters?" "I'll get in touch with some security firms, find out who's the best at this sort of thing, and hire you some protection." 6 months ago, Declan had come across evidence that one of his subsidiary companies was being used to launder money by a drug cartel. He'd gone to the police, and he'd been working with them since to uncover the assholes behind it. Now they'd succeeded, and those assholes were unhappy with Declan. They wanted revenge, and to make an example of him, preferably before the case came to trial in 3 weeks' time. And this morning, he'd been shot. That didn't mean he had to have some crappy bodyguard shadowing his every movement. He glanced over to where his father still leaned against the wall. "I don't need a bodyguard. I'll be careful. You'll have them, or I'll tell your mother about this." God forbid. He obviously meant business. Declan couldn't remember the last time his father and mother had even spoken. Maybe his sister's wedding 5 years ago? Even then, he suspected they'd managed to get through the proceedings without talking. Strangely, they had never divorced, but they also did their bests to never meet. As they lived on different sides of the Atlantic Ocean, it wasn't difficult. Declan knew all about the effectiveness of putting an ocean between you and someone you didn't want to encounter. He gritted his teeth as the doctor made the final stitch, then released his breath. He wasn't a baby, and he didn't need babysitting. But maybe it wasn't worth arguing with his dad about the matter. He'd see these security people, pay their retainer, and then tell them to keep the hell away from him. He had a business to run. Somewhere along the way, Jessica Bauer had lost the ability, and, if she was honest, the inclination, to play nice. While it had started out as a cross between payback and a defense mechanism, now it was second nature. She was the first to admit it. She was a badass with attitude issues. But that didn't mean she couldn't change.